Hi, my name is Sneya Rajani. I am interviewing Kesha Raithatha on behalf of the Poshak Puralekh project. Hi Kesha, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
For the interview, can you please state your name and how are you associated with CICD?
Yes, my name is Kesha Raithatha and I have been associated with CICD pretty much my entire life since the age of 7 or 8, and actually along before that as well, as my mum began her journey with CICD and Nilimaji when, before I was even born.
So you've had quite an in-depth, long relationship with CICD?
Absolutely, yes.
When and where were you born, and what is your background in terms of dance, how you're connected to dance?
So I was born in Leicester, and my connection through dance happened directly through my mum. She was always passionate about it and started learning Kathak at a later stage in her adult life, but was always into folk dance and won many awards and competitions for some of her choreographies for it. She then came across Didi and CICD when Didi was starting off in Leicester, and it was just a very natural occurrence that, my mum started working here and performing with Didi and learning Kathak, doing a lot of community performance, and that's pretty much the story of my life as well. I started off learning Kathak with Didi, and I've completed all my ISTD grades up until grade 6, and throughout my childhood life and my teenage years into my early adult life, I was associated with many performances and projects nationally and in Leicester as well with Didi.
That's amazing. So you've basically grown up watching your mum involved in Kathak throughout,
Yes.
which has obviously made you really involved with it and obviously inspired you to move further.
Absolutely, yes.
What is your involvement in costumes in regarding to classical and folk dance? How do you think costumes are in terms of importance?
I think the costumes that we have in our Indian culture play a really, really huge part in our identity and who we are, and people usually are very attracted to them from around the world because of their colours and their patterns.
Yes.
And all the various ways of just making designs, and they all represent a certain style of dance, which is a very beautiful thing as well. And it's something that you just learn without realising that you're learning it when you are a dancer. You just grow up seeing various types of costumes around you, and you just know suddenly what each one belongs to, and you see how important it is to finish off the product of a choreography or the style of dance. You learn the style, which is of course very, very important, but just as that finishing touch, it's the flourishing, or the icing on the cake, if you want to call it, when you have the correct costume and the correct design, which just brings the full picture together. It's the first thing people see when they look at you. It's
Yes.
the first thing that intrigues them and attracts them, and it's just got such a rich cultural aspect to it. That style of dance isn't that style of dance without the correct costume and without the look and the feel of the garment.
So 100%. So you think the costume actually identifies what the dance is going to be, or what the dance should be? Or...
Yeah, it should speak about the dance in itself and, complement it as well, definitely.
Okay, so if we go into a bit more detail about costume, in terms of the structure of the costume, do you think it helps the dancers to dance much more beautifully than they already are? It helps them extend their moves further, or helps them to be more comfortable within the dance?
I think it's definitely almost like you're morphing into that person or that style, that character. It can definitely enhance every shape and movement that the dancer is doing. The more comfortable the dancer becomes in the costume that they are to wear. For example, if we're talking about Kathak, if you learn how that dress and the skirt, the flare of it complements your turns, or how it lifts when you move in certain directions, you can really genuinely enhance a piece of choreography or yourself on stage if you're doing a solo. How to work it in group, the way the comfort that a dancer has with their costume it's almost like it's second skin, and it needs to feel like
Yes.
that. So it's something, and it's a lot harder to do with Indian dance because we have so much more cloth and garment to wear. So if you can master that and make it look more beautiful than it already is, just as a stagnant
Yes.
piece of clothing, I think people genuinely get more excited about looking at it.
That's a really nice way of explaining it.
Mm.
Can you please tell me about a costume or production that you remember that hits a particular nerve?
Yes, there was a production that Nilimaji did when I was much younger. dancer with CICD, and it was called Rainbow. And there was at least 5 of them, and they were all wearing different colours, but it was not the Kathak costume that people know as a traditional Kathak costume, where there's a very flary skirt or, you know, long dress with, you know, which flares as you turn. This was another type of Kathak costume which people don't get to see very much, where, you know, you are in a trouser and, you know, a long top, and the way that complements your silhouette and the yoga movements that were implemented into the choreography, it was something that I was seeing for the first time when I was that age, although it is an old idea, you know. So that really fascinated me, because I saw how something old is also quite contemporary.
Yes.
And, you know, how it can also change the way the dancer looks on stage in those stances and positions and movements. And then the other piece that I was a part of was Vyom, which was a production about the solar system and the planets. And again, that took on the dhoti form, and we all had blouses, and it was a beautiful satin whitewashed piece of work where there were so many dancers on stage, at least 25-30 of us at a time, you know, in white and gold. And the way to distinguish from one planet from the other was the colour of the scarf. So, you know, it was a very lovely, simple idea, but quite ahead of its time, you know, maybe for that period.
So that's what you remember as a child?
Yes.
Anything more recently that we've used the costumes in?
Yes, there was a really exciting project that happened in 2019 in London. It was the revival of a famous Bollywood film, Lagan, and CICD's archaic folk costumes were luckily used to dress almost 20 dancers on stage to make them give the same feel and appearance as the character villagers in the film, and the dancers, of course, from the film, just to replicate the entire feel of the village vibe and the folk vibe, including the jewelry. So we went, you know, completely full out with the aesthetics of that, using absolutely everything that it was all sourced from CICD, which is quite an amazing thing.
Oh wow, so the costumes really helped set the scene for the film as well.
Absolutely, preserving those old costumes really helped setting the scene. Yes.
Okay, and finally, how do you feel that costumes give significance to our South Asian communities in Leicester?
So I've always felt that whenever I see people dressing up in the more lavish Indian clothes, whether it be for a wedding or for a dance, you know, they are very, very excited, because that is the kind of or when non-Asians wear Indian clothes for the first time, there's always this level of excitement, because you get to look like a certain person and feel a certain thing. There's something very luxurious and very beautiful, especially with the ladies' clothes. You know, there's something very ultra feminine about it, and it's like an alter ego. It's like having another identity, and people want to just be that person just for another moment, whether it's in a dance form or in a character form. And these costumes that we have really give people a chance to feel that, even if it is just for a few minutes. So from a community aspect, it's probably the fastest way to transform the way a person's feeling about themselves, and how to get them excited to be in a folk dance, or when we celebrate Navratri, you know, the way we, you know, love to dress up for that. It really is something that's inherent in all of us, and, you know, we still want to look like that, and we still want to be those people. So they're very important.
And how do you think it's shaped dance, like in Leicester, particularly classical and folk? How do you think costume has shaped the dance form?
Leicester's such a multicultural city, so I think it's sometimes strange when you're walking around Leicester and you're not wearing Indian clothes if you're Indian, because it's so mixed up.
You were saying how costumes are a big part of the Leicester dance community.
I think it's because they've just kind of come out from just being part of the Asian community. Everybody wants to dress like that now. You see Diwali, everyone wants to play dress up. Like I said, Navratri, you know, I have my own friends who are non-Asians who always want to take stuff from me. I think they've suddenly become this thing that's an unspoken desire. When you dress in Western wear, you see them kind of like dabbling in, you know, kind of authentic Indian designs and embroidery. So it's just there. It's just this quiet thing that's just swimming around in the space all the time. So it is very important. So
it's taken dance to another level, basically.
Absolutely.
Costume does. It takes it to the higher level.
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Kesha. Thank you for being such a big part of CICD throughout, and hopefully we'll get to collaborate with you in the future. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. You too.